Welcome to FinStechs, everyone. I'm host Speaker Name.
And I'm expert speaker name.
Today we're doing a deep dive into some interesting early details about a new phone, the Pixel 9a. There's a bit of buzz around it.
Right. And we want to sift through that buzz,
hmm
look past the hype.
Exactly. We're focusing on the practical stuff, the upgrades that might actually make a difference in your day-to-day use.
So let's get into it. Where should we start?
Okay, let's kick off with something everyone cares about. Battery life.
Always a big one.
Yeah. So the info we have points to a pretty substantial battery in the 9A, 5,100 milliamp.
Wow, that's quite big, especially for an A-series Pixel.
It is, and they're claiming it should last, well, at least 30 hours.
30 hours. Okay. That's definitely a noticeable bump compared to, say, the regular Pixel 9 or even the 9 Pro, right?
Seems like it. And, for people who are busy, always on the move, needing info quickly, that kind of power,
Yeah.
that could be huge. No constant scrambling for a charger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It moves it from just a number on a spec sheet to a real-world benefit. Imagine going a full day, maybe even into the next morning.
Without that battery anxiety.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And apparently it's a key selling point they're highlighting.
Okay, so strong start on the battery. What about the screen we'll be looking at all that time?
Right, the display. Well, it sounds like it shares a lot with the standard Pixel 9.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Things like refresh rate, peak brightness levels, the aspect ratio resolution, HDR support.
Right.
A lot of the core stuff is similar.
So pretty good quality then. What's the catch for the A model?
The main difference mentioned is slightly thicker bezels, the
Okay.
borders around the screen,
Ah, okay, so maybe not quite as sleek looking.
perhaps.
Mm.
But the description still raves about it being big, bright, and bold, especially the brightness good for sunlight visibility.
Which is important. Nothing worse than squinting at your phone outside.
Exactly. And that ties back to the battery, right? If you have a big battery.
You can actually use that high brightness without panicking.
Precisely. You can crank it up when needed and not worry quite so much about draining the power super fast. It's a good combination.
Okay, interesting. Now here's something that caught my eye. The AI situation.
Yes. The Gemini Nano XXS sounds minimal.
It does. It's apparently a stripped-down version of the AI in the main Pixel 9, so fewer overall AI features.
Which might sound like a downside initially.
You'd think so, but the info we have actually frames this as a potential benefit.
How so?
Well, the argument is that this lighter version, this Nano XXS, doesn't run constantly in the background like the full version might,
Okay, so left background processing.
which could mean, potentially, better battery life again and maybe even smoother performance because the AI isn't hogging resources.
That's an interesting take. Less is more, in a way. So what kind of AI features are missing?
Things like pixel screenshots and call notes are mentioned as being absent.
Okay, some of the newer, maybe more niche features.
But useful tools like the recorder summaries, where it transcribes and summarizes audio, those are apparently still there.
Right, so keeping the core practical AI stuff.
Exactly. It seems focused on efficiency, avoiding features that maybe, not everyone uses that could just bog the phone down.
Which aligns with that practical theme we're seeing. A phone that just works well without unnecessary bells and whistles.
Let's talk performance then, because A-series phones sometimes cut corners here.
True, that's often a trade-off.
But this info suggests the Pixel 9a actually uses the same chipset as the top-tier Pixel 9 Pro XL, the Tensor G4.
Really, the exact same chip.
That's what it says. Now, it clarifies it might not, beat the absolute fastest flagship phones in really demanding games.
Okay, fair enough.
But for everyday tasks like switching apps, playing videos, streaming music, it should offer really smooth flagship-level performance.
So you're getting that core responsiveness, the snappy feel for most things you actually do on your phone without paying the top-tier price.
Seems like it. That's a pretty compelling value proposition, getting that level of processing power.
Definitely. That's a significant point for a mid-range phone.
Okay, and what about the outside? The design. The camera bar is gone.
Yeah, apparently they've ditched the traditional Pixel camera bar, that visor look,
For what?
a near-flat design on the back. The cameras are still there, obviously, but
Yeah.
they don't stick out nearly as much.
Huh. I know some people loved the bar, some hated it. What are the practical implications of making it flat?
Well, think about it. A flatter back means the phone won't wobble as much on a table.
True.
It's less likely to slide off surfaces easily.
Okay, yeah.
Probably won't catch on your pocket lining as much.
Hadn't thought of that.
And maybe less dust and lint collecting around the camera module. Just generally more user-friendly in small ways.
So even the design change leans into that practicality idea.
It seems so.
Hmm.
The source even suggested it makes the phone feel a bit smaller, more comfortable to carry, despite the screen size.
Interesting. And there was a point about durability too, right? Something surprising.
Yeah, this was unexpected. The 9A might actually be more durable than the more expensive Pixel 9s.
How? Usually cheaper means less tough.
Well, instead of using glass on the back and maybe stainless steel sides like the premium models,
Mm.
it seems the 9A is going with a plastic back panel and aluminum sides.
Okay, so maybe it doesn't feel quite as luxurious?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But the upside is plastic doesn't crack like glass does.
Right.
And it might be less slippery, easier to hold on to, so less prone to drops and damage.
Huh. So you trade that premium feel for maybe peace of mind?
That seems to be the idea. The author even mentioned loving the thought of a phone possibly lasting its full 7 years of software support without needing a case.
That would be something. It really doubles down on the practical, long-lasting angle.
Exactly. Durability plus longevity from software support.
So let's recap then. Based on this early look, the Pixel 9a seems to be really zeroing in on the fundamentals.
Yeah, like great battery life, a solid, bright display,
Smooth performance for all the usual stuff, thanks to that Tensor G4 chip.
a practical design that's potentially more durable, even if less flashy.
And a streamlined AI experience that focuses on useful tools without slowing things down.
It really does sound like a phone built around the user's actual daily experience, cutting out some of the maybe unnecessary frills.
Yeah, it's definitely giving us a lot to think about regarding what's truly essential in a smartphone today. What stands out most to you from all this?
For me, I think it's that combination of the big battery and the same core processor as the high-end models. That feels like a really strong value proposition.
I agree. That focus on core performance and endurance is compelling. Well, that's our dip dive for today based on the information we have. Of course, things could change as more details emerge.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Stay tuned for more updates and don't forget to like, yeah, and share and subscribe.